In the suffocating humidity of the South American jungle, the man who was supposed to be America's next great football star was alone, fighting for his life. His bomber had just spiraled into the earth. He was the sole survivor of a six-man crew, and he was surrounded by endless insects and razor-sharp grass. This was just the first of two plane crashes he would survive during World War II. But how did the country's most celebrated athlete, the legendary Old 98 from Michigan, end up here? And how did his unbelievable story of survival not only define his life, but also pave the way for a remarkable career as a broadcaster and Hollywood icon? Thomas Dudley Harmon's extraordinary journey began in the working class heartland Rensselaer, Indiana, where he was born on September 28, 1919. Athletics ran deep in his family's DNA. His father, Lewis, worked as a real estate agent, and his mother, Rose, was a clerk for the Census Bureau. Tom's three older brothers all became college sports stars themselves, setting a high bar for excellence. When the family moved to Gary, Indiana in 1924, 5-year-old Tom found himself at the innovative Horace Mann High School, a progressive campus with facilities that were perfect for nurturing his unique talents. And it was here that he became a legend before he was even old enough to vote. Harmon wasn't just a good high school athlete, he was a phenomenon. He was so dominant that he earned a staggering 14 varsity letters. Two of his achievements prove he was on another level entirely. In track, his 100-yard dash time was 9.9 seconds, just a half second slower than Olympic champion Jesse Owens' world record at 9.4. Even the story of how he chose the jersey number 98 is the stuff of a cheesy movie script. The story goes is that when he arrived to play in high school, he was told to grab a uniform, and he grabbed a new uniform, but was then sent back in because he wasn't on varsity and told to grab a scrub jersey. According to an article from 1968, he deliberately selected the shabbiest, most tattered one of the lot, the one with the highest and most ridiculous number he could imagine. When he went back on the field, they put him with the other scrubs, scrimmaging the varsity. Most of the scrubs were understandably nervous, but there was a rare fire beginning to burn inside the kid with the ridiculous old jersey. I'll show them, he vowed to himself. And as a matter of fact, he did. The varsity went into punt formation, and the kick went deep to the scrub safety man. Thundering varsity tacklers were all over him, but he sidestepped the first two, sliced off a third, suddenly spotted some space, shifted into high gear, and raced all the way back to the other goal. At that point, he's told he's on the varsity and to get a new uniform, which he refused. He decided to stick with the tattered 98. He becomes known as Old 98, a play on the folk song The Wreck of Old 97, which is about a speeding locomotive. In football, leading the Horace Mann Horsemen, he was so unstoppable that he scored 150 of his team's 205 total points on their way to a state championship. With 54 scholarship offers on the table, Harmon chose the University of Michigan, not just because of football, but because of its strong English and speech programs, a decision that would prove incredibly important decades later. Tom Harmon became a true college football superstar. He was the prototype of the triple threat player, a nightmare for defenses because he could run, pass, and kick with equal brilliance. Over his career, he racked up 2,151 rushing yards and 1,396 passing yards, scoring 33 touchdowns. He led the entire nation in scoring for 2 consecutive seasons, a feat no one else had ever accomplished. His career average of 9.9 points per game held as an NCAA record for 10 seasons. His 1940 Heisman Trophy season was the stuff of legend. On his birthday against California, he delivered a performance for the ages, scoring 4 touchdowns, including a 94-yard kickoff return, a 72-yard punt return, and an 86-yard rushing touchdown. The game was so wild that a drunk fan even ran onto the field to try and tackle him near the goal line. but his final game cemented his immortality. On November 23, 1940, against arch-rival Ohio State, Harmon put on a clinic. He completed 11 of 12 passes, rushed for 139 yards, intercepted 3 passes on defense, and averaged 50 yards a punt. In Michigan's 40-0 blowout victory, his performance was so breathtakingly dominant that the 73,648 Ohio State fans in attendance did the unthinkable. They gave him a standing ovation. This unprecedented show of respect for a rival has never been repeated. Think about that for a second. Over 73,000 Ohio State fans giving a standing ovation to a Michigan player who had just destroyed their team. It's a level of sportsmanship that might be impossible today. Can you think of any modern player who could command that kind of respect from their arch rival? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. That year, Harmon won everything: the Heisman Trophy with a record number of votes, the Maxwell Award as the nation's top player, and was named the Associated Press Male Athlete of the Year. His number 98 was immediately retired by Michigan. Tom Harmon had conquered the world of college football. He was a hero, a celebrity, and destined for professional stardom. He becomes so famous in 1941, he stars in his own movie, Harmon of Michigan. In the movie, which you can watch online, he plays a football coach, an arrogant football coach, a win-at-all-cost football coach. He starts using an illegal flying wedge formation to win games, and he ruins his marriage over more loutish behavior before coming to his senses.
And when he starts jeopardizing the physical safety of these kids entrusted to him, and starts using suicide squad methods to pile up big scores...
Stop lecturing, Pop. If you don't like the way I'm coaching football, there are several people that don't like the way you're coaching it. And winning games is important. Anybody should know that, especially you. Why, right now, down at reserve, everybody's yelling for your scalp. And why?
You can still buy the DVD off Amazon. Just as he reached the pinnacle, the world plunged into war, and the man known as Old 98 was about to face an opponent far more deadly than any linebacker he'd ever seen. He enlisted in the U.S. Army Air Forces in November 1941, nearly a month before Pearl Harbor. As a pilot, he deployed to the China-Burma-India theater, flying a B-25 bomber nicknamed Little Butch, with the nose art of Walt Disney character Peg Leg Pete wearing a football uniform with 98. His first brush with death came on April 9, 1943, while flying over the jungles of what is now Suriname in South America. His B-25 bomber hit a severe storm. His right engine cut out, and the plane went into a spiral from which he could not recover. Harmon ordered his crew to bail out, staying with the plane until the very last second. He jumped at just 1,500 feet and was the sole survivor of the 6-man crew. For 5 days, he was alone, losing 32 pounds while navigating a jungle filled with crocodiles and insects before being found by a local tribe. Harmon had been trained as a bomber pilot, but after his crash and being the sole survivor, he gets the chance to request directly from a general that he'd rather be in a fight from then on. From his own book, Pilots Also Pray, a passage: "The colonel took me over to the general's headquarters, and after I had told my story, the colonel added that I would like to fly a fighter. General Cannon asked me, 'Harmon, don't you think you would be a better man in bombers now because of your experience?' I replied, 'I don't know, sir. That might be. But my crew before meant the world to me, and I would feel better flying alone now if I could.' The general then turned to Colonel Allison, had told him to take me out to the fighter training center and tie a P-38 on my tail and see what happens. When I heard those words, I just about turned cartwheels. Getting the chance to fly a P-38 would mean everything to me. I hadn't known I could feel so relieved and happy again." His second crash was even more harrowing. On October 30th, 1943, Harmon was flying a P-38 Lightning fighter named Little Butch II over China as a member of the 449th Fighter Squadron. His mission that day was to provide cover for dive bombers. He was told to expect only 2 enemy planes, but instead his group found themselves facing 12 Japanese Zeros. This is a long passage, but it's an account from Pilots Also Pray about what happened to him over China. I had climbed steeply in this encounter and was just going to pull over and head for home. Then I heard a sharp ring against the armor plating behind me. Almost immediately, a second shot hit the armor plate under my seat, and I was given a slight jolt. The third shot exploded between my legs. This one blew the gas primer out and blew my legs off the rubber pedals. Later on, I discovered my pant legs were blown off at the knee. How I ever missed catching some of those shell splinters, I'll never know. The gas primer was now blown clean out, and the gas line in the cockpit was on fire. I reached down between my legs and tried to stamp out the fire with my hands. It was a useless gesture. The fire only grew in intensity. The flames began to lick my face and arms and legs. My plane was now in a 90-degree drive straight for the lake. I knew that I had gone into that dive at about 8,000 feet, but I didn't know how much altitude I had lost while I was trying to put out the flames. I did know for sure that to stay in that cockpit very much longer would mean roasting alive, so I loosened my safety belt and jettisoned the canopy. The terrific rate of speed the ship had built up in its dive had caused a great suction in the cockpit, and I was literally torn out of the ship. Not being sure of my altitude, I pulled the ripcord on my chute almost at once. As soon as I had done that, I was sorry, for I heard about how the Japs had machine-gunned parachuting pilots, and I knew the correct move was to pull a delayed fall and open your chute as late as possible. The trouble was, I didn't know what was as late as possible. My chute opened with a jerk, and I snapped up right under it. I looked off to my left and saw a Zero circling me. Directly opposite him, another Zero also began to circle around my chute. At that moment, my heart went right up into my throat, and a man in a parachute is as helpless against a strafing plane as a duck on a string. I had heard machine gun bursts, and I decided the only hope for me was to play dead. I folded over in my harness and hung limp. Out of the side of my eyes, I could see the 2 Zeros still slowing down to continue their circle. I was waiting for them to turn into me at any minute and start blazing away. During those moments, I was undoubtedly setting the world's record for Hail Marys. I must have set 1,000,000. Harmon makes it to the ground without being machine gunned, but for 32 days he was missing in action. Back home, America assumed its hero was dead, but in reality he was enduring a private hell. His eyes and lips were swollen shut from the burns. He lost 52 pounds, battling infected burns and amoebic dysentery, unable to even eat for 17 days straight. He was kept alive by Chinese guerrillas who carried him through the mountains to safety. He survived sipping tea and rice fed to him by the Chinese as they walked several hundred miles. For his incredible bravery, he was awarded the Silver Star for gallantry and the Purple Heart. Tom Harmon's journey from a football field to a flaming cockpit and back is one of the great forgotten stories of American history. If you believe stories like this deserve to be remembered, please hit the like button. It's the best way to help share this piece of history with more people. The very injuries that made him a war hero ended his athletic prime. His legs, severely burned in the China crash, couldn't hold up in the NFL. He played 2 seasons for the Los Angeles Rams, but a series of injuries to his war-weakened muscles forced him into early retirement. But this setback, ironically, opened the door to his true calling: broadcasting. That English and speech degree from Michigan paid off. Starting in 1945, Harmon rapidly built a media empire that would span 45 years. He was the first play-by-play announcer for a televised Rose Bowl, a beloved sportscaster for CBS for over a decade, and the sports director for KTLA in Los Angeles. His company, Tom Harmon Sports, was generating $1 million a year by 1965. Over a legendary career, he made more than 10,000 broadcasts, becoming one of television's most trusted voices. His personal life was just as successful. In 1944, he married actress Elise Knox, and they became one of America's first power couples. Their wedding featured a detail so incredible it perfectly symbolized Harmon's miraculous survival. Elise Knox's wedding dress was made from the silk of the very parachute that had saved her husband's life over China, complete with bullet holes. Their 3 children all found success in Hollywood. Kristen married singer Ricky Nelson and was the mother of the rock duo Nelson. Kelly became a famous model and actress, and their son, Mark Harmon, after his own career as a UCLA quarterback, became one of TV's biggest stars, known to millions as Agent Gibbs on the hit show NCIS. Tom Harmon died on March 15, 1990, at age 70, after suffering a heart attack following a golf tournament victory, competitive to the very end. His passing marked the end of one of America's most complete life stories. What makes Harmon's legacy so unique is the sheer breadth of his success. Could anyone, any human being, possibly fit more into one life than Tom Harmon? Many athletes fade after their playing days, but Harmon reinvented himself time and time again. He was a college immortal, a decorated war hero, a broadcasting pioneer, and the patriarch of an entertainment dynasty. He represented the American ideal of the complete man, excelling through talent, surviving through courage, and succeeding through adaptability. His is a story not just of a great football player, but of an iconic American life. If you enjoyed this video, you might want to wander through our playlists of other featured videos, such as great players and great coaches throughout history. You might also enjoy our playlist on the history of offense. That playlist features videos on the single wing, the T formation, the wishbone, the I formation, and the first triple option offense, the veer. There's also some fun stuff in there, like the lonesome polecat, the forerunner of the run and shoot, and the lonesome end, a story unto itself.